Remember, if you enjoy this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. Think about getting in the comments section below and letting me know if you really enjoy what you see. Make sure you Hulk smash that subscribe button. If you feel like you're in a position to support the channel and help it grow, think about using the link in the description to sign up for my Patreon page, sign up for membership right here on YouTube, or pick up your very own JerkComic shirts like the ones you see on the screen. But now, let's get into it. Welcome back, boils and ghouls. So tonight I have got a treat for you. I had been waiting for this interview for a few years. Like, we've been trying to line up schedules. I've been following this dude forever. I know that you guys have read Copra, so I am super excited to have Michel Fiffe on the channel tonight. How are you doing, man?
Hey man, thanks for having me. This is awesome. It has been years. Sadly enough, we've been trying to get this thing to happen for a while. So I'm just glad to be here.
Dude, I super appreciate you taking time out of your insane schedule, especially with all of the fun coming up that we will be getting into.
Dude,
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
you got a limited amount of time. You guys know how much I love to hammer on in these interviews, so let's get into it. I'm not going to waste your time with how did you get into comic books and like why did you grow up with them, blah 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 blah. How did you get into publishing your own stuff, man?
Well, it was mostly I just needed to have my work out there. I was trying to do the traditional thing of just submitting stuff and talking to editors and trying to get gigs or work for hire gigs. And I was running into a wall, several walls. I wasn't able to create the things I wanted to create. And I really didn't want to self-publish. I mean, I really did not want to do that because to me, self-publishing meant not drawing. I had to become like a manager or something else, not creative. And turns out that's not true at all. It's just all part of what I learned is that it's all part of the same thing, right? The same creative impulse. Um, Slowly but surely, I started printing things here and there, figuring out how to deal with stores, how to deal with the postal service, shipping supplies, just kind of mundane but essential things. Um, Dealing with customers on a retail level, and online sales and stuff. So it was all those little things, but also it allowed me the freedom to kind of create what I wanted, the way I wanted to see things exist. In like Zegas, that was my very first self-published thing. Zegas was like my one-man anthology sort of story that was later collected, but I really just wanted to have like a physical thing. I had done web versions, or I made Zegas comics and I put them online, but I wasn't happy with that, just having them exist. And I got tired of pitching this thing to publishers, and I just wanted it to, I wanted to hold it. And that it's as simple as that. I had the means. I had a friend who was helping me put it together in terms of like, the PDFs and scanning it and having me figure out that aspect of it too, rather than just drawing the thing and then magically it appears. Like I had to learn every step of this process. So it started like that. It started really small and it just kind of grew.
When was Zegas at? When did you first start publishing Zegas?
That was around 2011, late 2010. Late 2010 is when I started talking to printers and picking out paper stock and trying to do the math of how many copies could I afford and how long was it going to be? Just the logistics, right, of making this thing happen.
And you'd done some work for Negative Burn before that, right?
I did a bunch of stuff. Like I said, it was just little jobs here and there. I would get like a one pager, a four pager here, an eight pager there. I would ink a job. I would do a cover for someone or a pinup. There was just a bunch of random. It's a really scattered minor bibliography. Nothing of import at all. Um, I mean, some of it's okay, but that to me doesn't even count. That's like training ground to me. Zegas was the first real thing where I was like, okay, this is my unfiltered vision of what I want to see in comics. and then to take it a step further as a print object, as an artifact. Um, and that's how it started. But yeah, I did little things here and there. But to me, Zegas is really like my first work, pretty much.
Right on, because I remember you showed up in Pop Gun at one point, I think, and there's one other one from around then that I just am totally Brawl. That's what it was.
Yeah, there's a thing. Well, one of my earlier comics was Panorama, and that was what you call it, serialized online. But again, I wanted it to be in print. I wanted it to that was always the goal, right? But that was really just a practice thing that I would do occasionally. Um, and then eventually that got collected also, but to me that's like it was like part of the first 10,000 pages thing, it was like it's okay if it never sees print, um but looking back on that, I like that work, and that's why I eventually collected it through Dark Horse, because I actually was fond of that era. uh but so that was Panorama, and then Zegas was like the next step in the evolution of me as a cartoonist, but me as a creator of books.
And I remember when you really popped up on my radar was like I had guys bombarding me asking me about Death Zone. Like when that happened, it
Yeah,
was like I mean there was something about that that just struck a chord. And I mean like it's an amazing book from what I've seen, but like it really, really struck a chord. Can you talk a little bit about what Death Zone is and how it came to be?
sure. I mean, just to backtrack a little tiny bit, I had done 2 issues of Zegas, and after the second one, I was so exhausted from just like the rigor of promoting it and talking about it, and I had some sort of crowdfunding thing with it. It was just really, I wasn't too excited to get back to doing the third one, even though that was the plan. So as a break, I had just finished reading a bunch of old comics, primarily Suicide Squad, and just a bunch of other older comics, just to sort of cleanse my palate in a way. And I didn't know what to do with that inspiration. Do I do fan art and post it online? Do I write essays that no one's ever going to read? Like, what do I do? And I figured that, well, I would do what I think I do best, which is a comic book, or how to best express my love for this stuff, the material that I was reading, specifically Suicide Squad, the John Ostrander, Luke McDonald stuff, and Kim Yale stuff. Um, I had a reinvigorated interest in this stuff, and it was better than before. I mean, I really fell in love with this stuff so fucking hard, I got to tell you, and to the point where I started really geeking out in a way I had never done before, in a profound sense of like seeking out the characters, and also John Ostrander's other body of work. But I really, I was going deep into the DC catalog, and I was like, oh, that's okay. What they've done, really, the highest point was that original run. So I was inspired by that run, and I decided, okay, screw it. I'm going to make my own little story, and I'm going to treat it completely straight. Because usually, when an indie guy, which is what I was labeled, which I don't necessarily agree with, but whatever, that's another story. When an indie guy tackles a superhero property, it's as a joke, it's as a goof, it's looking down on it, and I had no interest in that. That was in my immediate reaction anyway, so I wouldn't have done that to begin with. In the way even Marvel and DC sometimes do to themselves, I wanted to treat it like a straight, just I'm doing an action story in my style. And because it was a bootleg and I wasn't getting paid for it, and I certainly wasn't going to sell it, right? It was a pure exercise. It had to be done quick because I couldn't waste time on it, and I got it done. It was 16 pages and a cover. Uh, and that unlocked something in me where I was like, oh, I could produce these at this level, these kind of pages with this kind of story that I find really thrilling, and make it happen. So that went over. A couple people bought it. It was kind of interesting and cool to have people react to it. But then I'm like, I kind of want to do it again. What if I just create my own Watchmen style version of Suicide Squad? Like, why don't I just do that? Right. how would I fill the pages? Do I have enough of a story there that I want to tell in a few issues, or maybe it could be 12 issues, maybe it could be a year, but it had to be monthly and it had to be in color. And that's before I go off on it, that's how Cobra developed. Death Zone, the comic you asked about, was basically the demo tape to Cobra. And that's a pivotal moment. I would say that's like a, a strong inflection point for me in terms of my career, my creative pursuit, for sure.
It seemed like you really kind of found your voice and your direction and that kind, even though, you can't reprint Death Zone, obviously, and you didn't even do it for profit, it just kind of like launched you in this direction. And like ever since then, you have been a like immutable force of nature, man. Like a lot of people,
Yeah.
and I do kind of I agree with you that the indie label is I can see how people apply it to you, but even as early as like 2010 or so, I know you were doing like helping with Savage Dragon backup stuff for
Mhm.
Image. You had, like I
Yeah.
said, you had done stuff for Negative Burn. You worked for the guys who took over Negative Burn, the other publishers.
Desperado.
Desperado, thank you. You'd done
Yeah.
a few pieces for them.
I remember that. Yeah.
Obviously you had done professional work at that point, whereas I think most people that are just kind of labeled as indie guys are just kind of like throwing stuff at the wall. And that's another question. I know that it was limited, and it's part of those, yeah, as you call it, the 10,000 pages. Did you take anything or a lot away from that early stuff that you brought into the energy and momentum that you found out of Death Zone and into Copra?
Well, the stuff pre Death Zone was, actually Zegas was really when I started taking this stuff to the next level, where I was incorporating not only color and inking techniques and stuff, but I was really trying to think of a larger story and really planning something out and having something to say, rather than just telling a cool story. um I think working on that old stuff, it's really just about like woodshedding. It's about just like practicing and practicing and getting the lettering right and knowing how to dip your nib into ink in the right, most efficient way. Just little things like that that build up, and you build your muscle that way. And doing it all yourself helps, and that's why I don't have to rely on a colorist or letterer or an editor or any of those things. I could just kind of do it myself because that's the quickest way. It's the most affordable thing to do. B, and that's just how I am naturally. I'm just kind of a control freak. It's the way we kind of grew up, like making our own comics in our bedrooms. I didn't have a staff of peers or anything. It's just like this is kind of what you do in indie comics. But I wanted to join the labor force, the workforce of the mainstream comics. I grew up reading those comics, and I was familiar with that work ethic, but I was also familiar with the undergrounds of the 60s, and then the alternative comics of the 80s and 90s, and the current crop of indie comics. So I liked it all. And my style is my style. It's just kind of a mix of all the stuff I like, which could be a number of things, is a mix of a number of things that I like. So when I was trying to get work, I was, I get it. The editors are just, they don't know what to do with me. I mean, it's a fierce, tight pool of competition. What are you going to do with this with this thing? There's no room to develop it. There's no incentive for them to develop new talent of that nature, of my nature. So it was tough. It was tough. It wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be easy, but I thought, man, I'm putting in all this effort, all this work, all these hours for years, really not fucking around, like really trying my best. And I wasn't getting the results I thought, the results I expected. It's kind of weird to sort of articulate this because there's a privilege to this, like an entitlement to it. And it's not that I felt entitled, but it's like I just thought I was doing the right thing to get a job, to get a career. That's what I wanted to do. You follow A, B, and C, you do the right thing, you talk to people, you present yourself, you're not a nuisance, you're polite, you're cool, you're on time, you're hungry, you show up, blah, 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 all that shit. And it got me Nothing, not nothing, but it didn't get me to where I wanted to be. And that's why I started self-publishing, and which led to Death Zone, which is that layer of like, oh, I could do genre comics. Fuck everyone who's saying I can't. Because there are people who said I can't, like you shouldn't. You should just stop, knock it off. That's not for you. And to which is like, well, fuck that. Like it's what I want to do. So that's how I'm here. 12 years later after Copra One came out.
And as we get into all of this, guys, I really want to mention up front, we're going to talk a lot about creating your own books, how to do that. Michelle is laying out, hey, this is the easiest, the cheapest way to do it. I letter my stuff, I do this. If you want to learn how he does this, make sure that you use the link in the description below to check out his book, Creating Cobra. And it is a indispensable self-publishing guide. It is not extremely verbose. What it is down to the letter. This is what's worked for me. This is how I do it. This is how I break down my time. And I think it will make very evident why I was so excited to do this interview, because there is just a passion and a drive behind this comic that I do not see even in mainstream stuff. It's incredible. So let's talk a little bit. Zegas, you've kind of found your voice. You've worked with a couple of people because Negative Burn is like 2006, I think. And
Mhm.
so 2010, by 2010, you're working for Eric Larson, doing Savage Dragon backup editing and that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
By 2010, you've got out Death Zone. And then it's like 2011 or 2012 when you put out the first Cobra.
Actually, Death Zone, I believe, was 2012.
Was it 12?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm terrible with numbers and coming off a 12-hour day, dude.
Thing is, I'm terrible at dates myself, but I remember that because I recall that Death Zone happened, and then Cobra happened like that because it was like I had to give myself a gig, right? So I'm like, okay, so I need monthly income. I'll do a monthly comic. It was that simple. I mean, and I was that like ignorant about like the reality of it. I'm like, oh, I think I could make 24 pages in 24 days. I could do that, right? And somehow I did for about a year. That was the first year. It was 12 issues on a monthly grind. I wasn't printing that many copies. Um, it was enough to keep me busy, and as long as I could schedule everything and manage everything and not be negligent in those responsibilities, I nailed it. I nailed it. And but so yeah, it was 2012. It was 2012 because I remember Death Zone came out in like April, May of 2012. I went to Heroes Con with it. I debuted it there. It was my first Heroes Con down in North Carolina. And then during that summer, during that 4th of July, I was like, what am I gonna do? I gotta harness this juice. I gotta take it to the next step. And then by November, I had the first issue like in hand. So it really moved quickly. It moved really fucking quickly. And then Zegas number 3 is still waiting. Like that's still in the works somewhere. Somewhere deep in my files, but it Copra really dominated my life for the better.
I was gonna say it seemed like just a really I hear about a lot of indie books, but they're kind of blips on the map. And the names behind them also aren't always synonymous, but like your name kept popping up. And it was like work ethic. This dude is killing it. Art, dude's killing it, man. You into like this, like, are you into 90s image book? Dude is murdering it, man. Like out of the gate, you just came out and were like slaughtering the competition, dude. Like, did you have a bit, was it like kind of just naturalistic and writing on that energy to get that first year done, dude? Because that is madness to be able to come out on your own and do 12 issues in 12 months, man. That
Yeah, I thought I just had to make a comic that I wanted to read, so that sort of get like uh didn't put any pressure on me, really. Like it wasn't like a job, that an editor was waiting for and an audience was waiting for. It was like I was working in isolation. And it really wasn't until like issues two or three, maybe four, where it was like, oh, like people are kind of talking about it and noticing it and it's bubbling. But even that was like, I wasn't really online too much. I mean, I was, but not to the degree that everyone is these days. So it was like I was able to just plug away, just get pages done and get it printed and, have, be faithful to the cycle that I had created. And that's how I got 12 issues done. And then I would still maintain a monthly schedule in pockets. I would do like 6 issue or 5 issue arcs, and I would take jobs in between or juggle them while I was doing, Copra, concurrently with Copra issues. So I still kind of kept a monthly clip. Um, Up until recently where I had to move and I had to, the whole, I went to Image and then went back to self-publishing, and that kind of ping pong slowed the creative process down a little bit. But by and large, it was a monthly affair for a long time.
How long was it before because it's you partnered with some friends of yours that had a shop that went into publishing
Yeah.
Bergen, and
Yeah, yeah.
that was like what, starting after like maybe issue 3 or 4 or something like
Well,
that?
that's the thing. It was like they were my friends. They had a store, Tom Adams, Amy Adams, and Tucker Stone. And by the second issue, I was selling out, and they proposed like we could do a bumper edition if you'd like, and just to take care of the need to take care of the need, because I couldn't afford to print like a third printing of issue 1 and 2, because I went back to press because I'm like, oh my god, I'm getting orders in, cool, I'll just order another 300 copies. I mean, we're talking about like Mickey Mouse numbers, right? So Bergen stepped in and they're like, we'll take care of it, don't worry about it. And it was awesome. And that definitely helped. Not kind of it, they definitely helped move units, right, and spread the word. And then it was like, oh well, Bergen Street, that's a cool store, they're putting a book out now, so that kind of put a spotlight on my work as well. So it was like a double spotlight. I was building momentum on my own, but then their own momentum put together just made something really special, to the point where they just started putting out the collections. It went from bumpers to just full-blown 6 issue rounds, as they coined the collections of trade paperbacks. And we had a long, fruitful relationship until they just stopped. And I needed a home because I couldn't, the thing is, traditionally I handle the single issues, they handle the books, right? Someone had to handle the books. So I went to Image because I already had a relationship with them over any other publisher that was interested. So I went to Image for a while. I mean, I'm still at Image actually. The thing is, Image put out the books, digital, international, but also the single issues. I sort of gave up the self-publishing issues aspect of it because it just took too much time. Um, they handled that. COVID happened, everything went crazy, and I retained the self issues, the single issues to self-publishing rather. Um, and now I'm back. Now I'm back at Image. So now I'm sort of utilizing both worlds of self-publishing, my own versions of the issues, but so is Image. So it's still like,
So is Image going to be doing the single issues of Death of Copra?
yeah, yeah, it's
Oh,
still
okay, okay.
a very strong relationship.
Because that was something that I had a lot of people ask about, and I was very curious about. Because that, you're very uh succinct and intelligent when you give interviews, but I just never heard anyone ask about that direct, swing from self-publishing to Image, back to self-publishing, and now back to Image. And that's interesting to hear, that it's just COVID, and that it was like basically, at the beginning, like, I mean, like, I guess just keeping up with demand and then getting up with
Yeah,
Image, and then COVID slowed stuff down and you made the decision to go back to self-publishing.
for sure. I mean, you remember COVID, it was like everything pencils down.
Yeah.
The Diamond distributor warehouse shut down. We didn't know what was happening. And so I made the decision like, well, I'd rather just put out the single issues because that's manageable
Mm.
and control it a little bit closer, within my own pocket of readership. Um, and I'll let Image just continue to do the books and kind of have the footprint in the retail space, of which I have a small footprint. I have my own, I mail boxes full of comics to retailers. So I took on self-publishing again because I just by necessity I had to. And that's another reason why the books stopped being monthly and they kind of became quarterly. They became like whenever I can, as soon as possible. I was constantly working more than ever. I had more orders than ever before, actually, oddly enough. But because I was handling everything and the numbers had like more than doubled, uh, I was overwhelmed, you know. And I'm like, this is my storage, this is my studio, this is my shop. Like it all happens here at home. I don't farm out that work. So that's why I decided for this last arc, the death of Copra. I wanted Image to get back. I wanted Image to do the issues. I would still do like a variant. I'm still doing like my own subscription variant myself, just to do, just to have my own version, but I'm still self-publishing, a limited exclusive edition sort of thing. Um, but Image is taking care of all that stuff. And that includes the regular variants, that includes all the collections and the hardcovers, like, but I needed to re-engage with the retail space of the modern world, if that makes sense. Like I just had to, it's a new generation, I feel like. I just needed to remind them that this book existed. Because I could easily exist in my own bubble,
Mhm.
but that just takes up so much time. I wasn't getting enough comics done, and I needed the comics. I was so close. I was so close to the end of the story, and I'm like, I can't drag this out. I got to really push it over the edge, make it into its own little mini series, and have Image put it out. I think it deserved the sort of attention that it's been given right now, with a new title, with a new presentation. Um, and yeah, it's weird that it's coming to an end, but I thought, it merited this extra focus.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm sad, that Copra's coming to an end, but I really respect the fact that it feels like, coming out of Death Zone, you like had this idea that kind of hit you like a lightning bolt. Obviously, you look at that first issue, and I always felt like that first issue, I was like, that's Michelle's head right there. Bam. I could just see the idea like hitting you, man, like lightning, dude. And it's been carrying you, but it's really cool to see you bringing the story to a close instead of there's a lot of people that would be tempted to ride this forever. And you are constantly looking for ways to expand. In 2014, you did all new Ultimates with Marvel, which I thought was really, really cool. And I don't mean to get totally off Cobra, but before we get into like the death of Cobra and kind of like, wrapping up and stuff, what was working? Because you were kind of coming out of Dark Horse and a lot of these independent publishers, smaller independent
Mhm.
publishers, into freaking Marvel with I mean, all new Ultimates. Like, what was that like? You did the GI Joe Sierra Muerte for Image as well, which was absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Well, the ironic part is that I started getting work after I did Cobra. So all that stuff that I was trying to do before started happening for me. All the doors started opening for me because, I showed up and I produced a body of work and people liked that body of work. And so, hey, that there's no easier way to make other people notice, to make editors notice. And so I started getting work at all these other companies. Um, at first as a writer, and that's fine because drawing would take me too long and I was still working on Copra. And eventually I made a pivot to do writer artist, to do the complete package, to do the Copra approach on things like Bloodstrike for Image. And yeah, like you mentioned, the G.I. Joe thing, that was for IDW around the same time. Um, and that was fun. And I got to play in those sandboxes and do my own thing. But I gotta say, like working on Copra and approaching this genre stuff, like I have to it's hard to put into context, but it felt like shackles had been removed or something. Like working within that genre, within the genre of like superheroes, it was like not that it was taboo, but it was like such a different world. I mean, we're talking about like that's the mainstream big leagues, or if you want to do like middle brow sort of genre junk, that's what you do. And then indie stuff is here. And there's an in between, this kind of weird limbo of like wannabes who want to do both. I was just doing both. I'm just like, I'm gonna inject all my inspirations into one thing. I now finally have a project in which to launch all of my fetishes, my comic book fetishes, including the single issue fetish. I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to play with the serialized form. I had never gotten to do that. I never thought I had a story to do that. And I didn't make fun of the tropes. I embraced the tropes. I was playing it straight again, the way I did with Death Zone. I was like, well, what's the story about? It's just a bunch of weirdo mercenaries going on missions, doing cool shit. They're revenge based. It's a thriller. It could be cosmic. It could be urban. It could be whatever I want it to be. It's organic. I pretty much crafted the world I wanted to work in to begin with. I wanted to work in the offices of 80s DC or 90s Marvel, or I wanted to have that rigorous schedule. I wanted to just produce books and not be precious about it, right? But also be a perfectionist about it. Again, I'm trapped between these two worlds of like, I gotta get it out the door, but I don't want to produce garbage. So it's that wrestling that I think defines Copra and my work in general in a large way. Sometimes when I do work for hire, I try to put that sort of passion behind it. Otherwise, I think you're going to be able to tell if I hate it or not, if I'm not into it. You know what I mean? Like, Copra is never going to suffer from that. But, other stuff might, I try not to, but it is that kind of like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like I'm like there's like this pretentious sort of looking down upon genre stuff, and I'm like, I get that, I totally get that, but I love that stuff, and I don't think it has to be dumb.
It doesn't have to be stupid. You brought an intelligence to Bloodstrike Brutalists that I was completely unprepared for.
Well, I was treating the characters with respect. That's all it is.
And intelligence. It both. You intelligently and respectfully approach that story as best as you could. And I was blown away by it. I mean, I was down for it mostly because the art was not a huge Bloodstrike guy growing up.
Mhm.
I read that and went back and read. I'm not gonna lie. I went back and read Bloodstrike, and I was like, okay, I gotta put this is awesome. This is you bring a passion that like is uncompromising and a power that is a very unique voice that's just absolutely beautiful. I mean, the Sierra Morte, the GI Joe series,
Mhm.
toasted my melon. I hadn't seen anything since Michael Golden did shit in the 80s on GI Joe that I loved that
Oh
much. I
wow.
mean, like I grew up on that stuff.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
don't talk down to it. You are on a level with it and you understand it in a way that I think a lot of people don't. Did
Yeah.
you know, did you learn? You have had an incredible drive from the beginning. Did you learn anything from going to Marvel and having to adhere to their deadlines and their structure and IDW, or were you kind of prepared, by the time that you went in there? Because that's early on. That's like 2013, 14 when you're doing that stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't, I mean, I had trained for it in a way. You could say that Copra really trained me. Um, but yeah, that schedule is no joke, man. Once the Marvel thing starts, once they announce something and it's on the schedule, you have to deliver and nothing's stopping it. And that was sort of wild and cool to witness. And I could see how people burn out or don't do it again, or they double down and they become that guy, that person who just do a number of books a month, like that becomes your life. You become, you become an exclusive creator or something. So for me, I felt trained. I felt fine. I nailed every deadline. while putting out the monthly Copra. I don't know how I did it. It was just it's sort of like, you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm just doing it. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, holy shit, like this is awesome. This is just the thing. And it's been a slow build since. I could have done a number of different things. I could have just stayed at Marvel. I could have just gone to DC. I could have just done this, done that. But I always had Copra as an anchor to something to go back to because I had that story to tell. It wasn't like this meandering thing that I'm like, oh, I'm just going to milk this forever because that's just the thing I do. I could have done that. And I've thought about doing that, about what if, why not? Um, but no, the time was right to end it. And the time was always right to take it to another place before, when I would leave, like when I left to do Bloodstrike and G.I. Joe, that was a 2 year break. But that needed to happen. I think Copra would have suffered had I just stayed on the whole time. I came back. I tackled that. I think I did the best. I mean, that's the thing. It's like Copra is also a story of my development as a creator. I really do think the latest issues are just the better ones. You might have like come in at issue whatever, issue 20 or 21, right? For example, and that's your favorite issue, and I won't get any. It doesn't get any better than that. But for me, Copra is a process. You could just see it. You could see me. You could see my process develop on the page, story by story, issue by issue, trade by trade. And so the stuff on my desk right now, I just cannot wait to get it out there. I cannot wait to share it. Not only because it's the ending, but it's just like I'm hoping that people love it, because I'm trying my best. I think it's the best stuff. Um, and just to balance all this out, sometimes I can't look at old stuff and I'm like, I can't believe I ever sent this out to the printer. Holy crap, what was I thinking? And sometimes I think that about stuff I did last week. So it's a mess over here. I'm always going back and forth. So, but overall, it's a positive thing. Obviously, I wouldn't have gotten this far if I was like too frozen up in my own artistic neuroses. Um, so yeah, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place to end this, you know. So we'll see.
And so let's talk about the death of Copra. Now, you're moving into the final arc. It's going to be, single issues coming out through Image. They'll be doing a collection, all of this. A lot of big hype going on around that right now. And again, I do want to take this opportunity again, guys. Go check out Creating Copra. I think if you read that and you read the series, you take a whole different appreciation away from it. Not to mention, if you were involved in self-publishing whatsoever, I think it is an absolute must read. And it's really cool because in Creating Copra, it's a lot like you were talking about the actual pages of Copra, because I agree. I think that if you look at issue 1 as opposed to issue 30, there's this artistic evolution and growth and like natural thing that's rolling out and happening with the series. um and that's really cool because it's all chronicled in Creating Copra. You talk about,
Yeah.
this is how I
Yeah.
used to do stuff, this is how I did stuff, this is how I'm doing stuff. um
Right.
like, has anything big changed for you going into Creating Copra? Like, have you set aside extra time for it, or is it just kind of like that same lightning in a bottle that you're channeling?
You mean for the book itself?
For the whole process, like, I mean, you took a few years off. You're intelligent, so you took a few years off. I need a
Yeah.
break. I'm going to go do Bloodstrike, and I'm going to do, GI Joe. Like, was there a break, or have you just been kind of building up to this, or?
No, it's been a constant thing. Even other stuff like Bloodstrike and GI Joe, they always what I learned from those jobs, I bring into Copra, and that because that's my project. That's my signature series. So it's I work everything through Copra, through the stories, through the style of art or whatever. But it's really just a showcase of my interests at the time, whether it be just comic book creators that I love, or stylistic narrative things that I want to experiment with. But as far as the book goes, those it was I like putting it together because I could express my, oh, I could kind of voice my own philosophy without knowing what it was at first, and just having to write it down. I discovered like, oh, that is how I feel about lettering, for example. These are my opinions about what I think inking should do, what its function is. And so it really helped me, so selfishly, it really helped me figure out what it is I do. It helped me articulate it in this way that it's like wasn't clear before. I kind of sensed it, but I had to sit down and write it and make it clear to other people. So I was making a kind of case for myself while making a case for the book too, for the series, why it came into being, kind of what we were discussing, but in like in a different way. I was just trying to kind of like really map it out from the beginning to execution. And that's sort of what the book is, just mapping out the whole thing from like the germ of the idea to going to the post office to mail the latest issue and having that the troubles in that thing, in that act. Um, so yeah, it's been fun. It's been taxing. Uh, it I'm glad it exists. I think it's going to be a book that I'm going to have in print as long as I can. Because even if you don't like or follow or care about Copra, it's still a creative template.
It has got indispensable information in there. It is a $20 book, and I am telling you, if you put out your own books, you owe it to yourself to spend the $20 because if it's just one headache that it alleviates, $20 is nothing. And when you read some of the way that like Michel lays everything out, because he doesn't like sugarcoat shit and he doesn't pull punches, he's like, this is what worked for me. This is
Mm.
why it works for me. And this is how
Yep.
it works for me. It's very intelligent,
Yeah.
very succinct, no bullshit. It's not long. You're going to be able to sit down and read it. All right. And then I guarantee you, if you put out your own book, you will go back to a certain section and reread that section about 6 times and be like, how the fuck did I not figure that out 6 months ago? Oh, it is a
That's funny. That's
awesome
funny. I
template, man.
appreciate it because it is it's you're right. It is. I mean, I try to be very thorough. I think it's a very thorough account of the stuff I do, but I do try to keep it brisk and to the point. I don't want to kind of meander and talk about this and that or whatever. I really try to get straight to the fact. And I share numbers, I share triumphs, but also losses, which is, it's tough to kind of admit, and kind of talk about. But I think those are just as important. This isn't just some sort of like self mythologizing thing. It's like, no, this is what I do. And these are the lumps I took. Beware. I hope you don't go through them. You'll probably have a different set of lumps to take. And toward the end, most importantly, I do map out the differences between being a self-publisher and working at Image. Those are there's such a fine line, but there's a lot of connective tissue there. But I break down the reason why I still have a relationship with them.
It's extraordinary to have somebody who's accomplished what you have with self-publishing a floppy title also provide the information on this is why and how I work with publishers from Bergen to Image. This is why there has been collected editions. This is why they're important. This is how I feel they should be handled and how they've worked for me. The other big thing that I would tell people about this book that I found extremely cool is that there is no point at which he says, this is what you need to do to survive or to make it, or this is what you need to look like. This is what worked for Michel, and this is how it worked for him, and what did not. And all of the warts, bruises, and beauty marks therein. Awesome stuff, indispensable shit. I don't want to harp on it, but I am saying I do think it is an important read.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it because look, the thing is, I focused on the stuff I do, but only to sort of show that it can be done because comics could be anything. And that's sort of terrifying. That's inspiring, but it could be stifling in a way, right? Like you could, oh my God, I could do anything. And it's like Yeah, and with that freedom, this is what I chose to do. A superhero adjacent revenge comic in my own way, and these are my ground rules for myself. And you move forward with that. But I try to be very open with my advice in regards to that. You could do anything you want. That's not the best thing. That's not, but you really can. And that's the beauty of comics. And that's the beauty of being able to self-publish. It's a privilege for sure. Not everyone could do that. Not because of their temperament, but you might not be able to afford it. It's a pricey venture. It can't, that's why you keep it small, so you could make it happen. It doesn't have to be a pricey venture, but it can be, right? You could just staple zines. You could just make a thing, So I try to talk about those ethos
I
pretty
was gonna
much.
say, and that's the other thing, Copra is not Death Zone. They are different things, but it did grow out of this small, you know, stapled, self-created, self-fulfilling, like, I need to do this book, so I'm gonna fucking do this book. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
began this whole journey, man, and seeing that all laid out so intelligently, and a lot of that stuff is taken from, I also highly suggest if you guys are interested in self-publishing or just, Michelle stuff in general, check out his Patreon page.
Mm-hmm.
Creating Cobra is taken from a lot of his Patreon posts. They're
Mm-hmm.
expanded, they're revised, there's more stuff in the book, so you still need to pick the book up. But there's just, he shares his process, he's very open, and it's always super interesting to see what and how he's approaching stuff. And he's like insanely open about that, which is cool as hell,
Yeah.
considering all the places that he's been. Because he's been from Image, Marvel, DC. He did a Superman story for Red, White, and Blue a few years ago. The
Yeah, I
guy has
bet.
just been everywhere. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go ahead.
No, no, no. You're right. Like I do try to talk about all that stuff because I can. I'm just, I'll go off. So I appreciate you mentioning that.
And I was gonna say, I loved your Superman Red, White, and Blue, like the anthology stuff that you do. Like I know you're working on Copra, Death of Copra. That is obviously gonna be your focus for a while. What do you plan on doing after that? Have you given any thought to that? Are you gonna be like, is it, are we going back to Vegas? Or are we going completely new direction? Or are we thinking like anthology stuff? Or
Got to dig up that Vegas 3, dude. Got to dust it off. I don't know. Honestly, I really don't. And that's not like a stock response because right now it is on my mind, obviously, because I have to wrap this up. So I don't, I'm not going to take a break or anything. I might, I don't know, but in terms of a creative project, it can mean a number of things. There are a number of possibilities, different roads I could take, which is exciting. It's cool, but I have to sort of recalibrate for that because Copra has been such a bedrock to me because I don't have that to come back to. So now that I'm sending it off and I'm ending the story, I'm like, well, what now? I could do anything, and in a weird way, like I said, terrifying. Exciting, cool, but I don't know. Am I gonna collaborate? Am I gonna do art? Am I just gonna write? Am I just gonna do? I could do anything. Well, I don't know if I could do anything. Not to make it sound like, oh, the world's my oyster. It's not. I'm still gonna have to hustle to get something done.
you might have to hustle, but no, I think you could do anything, man.
I could certainly attempt to pursue a bunch of ideas that I have. That there's no shortage of that. It's not like Cooper is like the end of, oh, that's it. That's all I got. And it would be fine if that was the case. This is how the way I'm going out. This is just the way Cooper is ending. But afterwards, there's so many things I want to do. There's so many stories I want to tell. And even just as a cartoonist, like I just want to keep developing. I feel like this is further training for the thing I want to eventually do. And I don't mean that as a physical, literal thing. I mean in the abstract, like the ultimate comic to me, like as good of a comic as I think I could make it. Um, like I want to achieve that. I want to get a little bit closer to that.
Climbing that Everest.
I don't know how close I'll ever get, but it's just you got to have that to get you through the next project. Otherwise, it's just like, what's the point? Just a miserable existence making donuts at the factory. And I can do that anywhere else. Like, but it's comics. I love this shit. You know, it's like I dedicated my life to it, and that's what that looks like. This is what that looks like. So who knows? Who knows what's next? Is, is Valiant still available? Could I do some fucking Solar Man of the Atom or
God
something?
damn it. I wish you could, man. You did a couple of covers for them back in the day, and I was like, yeah, you did like two covers for Valiant, and I was like, finally, they got someone who could.
Oh,
Now,
that's right. That's right. That's
what
right.
the
Yeah.
fuck happened to Valiant? What's happening? What the fuck? You're not even publishing Solar anymore? You bastard. Okay, fine.
That's right. I think that's is it Dark Horse? Anyway, that was just I was just riffing, but yeah, but you get my point. I'm just who knows what's going to happen, you know. But I'm sure I'll beat the drum.
I was gonna say, I think the doors are open for you, man. Seeing you come on to a Superman story was really interesting for me. Because Superman is just like the antithesis of the kind of character that I think most people would associate with your name coming out of like Death Zone and Copra and Sierra Morte and Bloodstrike Brutalist, and then like
Sure.
there's this and it is a good Superman story. I'm not a huge Superman guy. It's hard to
Oh, I
make him
appreciate that.
interesting. Uh,
Uh,
so like I'm really looking forward to that next plateau for you. Like I can't. I'm interested. Have you thought about like at all? Is it at least going to be something of your creation, like something that you want to go in and publish? Is that something that you want to continue to do, or are you looking and like just totally open?
yeah, I really am. When I say I'm open, I really am open. I mean, like, I don't know if I want to publish other people. I don't know if I want to really dig deep and become a publisher of other people, or if it's just
Ah,
me, or if it's like, I don't know. I'm not saying that as like to put out feelers. I'm just saying like that. I know how to publish. I could put out books. Um, maybe, Superman's interesting because I just love that character. I grew up with that character. I have such a profound fondness for that character that I had a few pages in which I could sort of express that. And it might have been atypical of the type of work I do, but I did my best. And I liked it. I liked it was a real challenge. I did some formula stuff that I wouldn't normally do. And I like the results. So if I could do more of that, sure, why not? So a little bit of both, a little bit of everything. You know what I mean? Like, why not? That's the stuff that keeps me interested.
well, it's just a lot of guys who do the independent stuff, they have all this freedom, and then you go into Marvel or DC, and they're giving you can't do this, and your Superman has to act this way, and Batman can't
Sure,
do that, or
sure,
Spider-Man. It's just sometimes it's stifling, but you're so creative, and like the way that you approach stuff is so contemplative. The possibilities seem endless. It's really cool for me to hear that you would entertain at least dabbling with someone like Marvel or DC again. I not the hugest fan of the stuff that they put out, but I think that with anthology series like that, Red, White, and Blue and stuff, we're getting
sure,
some great independent voices that are kind of coming in, and I think there's a doorway that's really opening up. And Image, your relationship with Image also, I think, has been an extremely important one, because you're publishing your own stuff, and Image is handling all of your trades and your hardcovers. It's perennially available. It's not out of print. It's not Kickstarter exclusive crap. So 6 months from now, when I kickstart my stuff, you have to order the big pack that's got all 10 issues, and you have to buy three that you already have. And you found two, like you have driven some real inroads and accomplished some stuff that I haven't. I have not seen many people coming from your position accomplish, man. So I really appreciate you being on the channel, talking about all of this stuff, sharing your insight, man. I know you said you had about an hour. We've been on for about an hour. So I just kind of like
Time
is
flew. Wow.
I was gonna say I know I was checking my time and I'm like, okay, I don't want to keep them too much longer, but talking about Death of Copra,
Yeah.
what can people expect? When is it starting? What would you like to talk about with it specifically, if anything?
Well, it's coming out in January. So January 8th, first week of January, 2025. And it's the end. It's me wrapping up a bunch of storylines, but it works as its own story. So it's like coming into the season finale of this grand, show or this epic. Um, it's essentially like issue 46, right? So but it's its own little thing. So it's a lot of game changing stuff that happens within that issue. So long term readers, that it's going to pay off, and then hopefully that'll compel readers in and of itself. Like it's going to be like, whoa, what is this cool story? Like, whoa, that's weird, and holy shit, that happened, and okay, and then hopefully they'll go back and read the stuff, and then it'll just make a richer experience. Um, but that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just kind of honoring everyone's trajectory, every character that I've sort of sculpted from the beginning. This is their send off. So I'm treating it with not kid gloves. Like every story, right? Every issue is just this sort of natural development of things that just have to happen because that's what the story demands. I've killed off characters I didn't want to kill, you know, um, because that was what the story demanded. And that's what this final arc really is in large part. It's just me um, telling the final days of certain characters or Copra as an institution, not only within the story, but as a meta example of my life, right? So it works in both ways. Like you've seen me grow into this thing and I'm developing the story for you. And there's sort of like a meta thing angle that happens also that ties into it's a lot. It's very layered. I'm treating it, I'm giving it the space to unfold, the respect that the readership deserves. I'm not candy coating anything. I am telling the rawest story I can, uh, uncompromised by anything. And I'm so excited to finally get it out there. I don't even know how to feel. Like, I'm sure I could tear up and choke up just thinking about it for too long. I can't. I got to put my head down. I got to keep drawing. I still have pages to finish, actually. I'm ahead of schedule, but I'm still in the middle of it. I can't really be like, oh my God, it's so sad. Oh no. It's like, I'll do that later if at all. But that's what this is. It's like it's my it this is Cooper has been my love letter to comic books as an art form. Not only not only what the comics I grew up with, but the comics I love now. Like the comics as a general thing, as an art as a way of expression, as a serious adult mode of expression. I take that very seriously. And I try to balance it with my own demented way of expressing stories, whether it be through bloodshed or jokes or serious human connections within my characters. It's a kitchen sink comic book, really. I try to throw everything in there. But these last four issues, it's going to show you what makes Copra so fucking cool. These four issues. Once you read this is mounting a defense against shitty fucking boring comics. Like this is it. Like this is as good as it gets. It's gonna kick everyone's fucking ass. I'm not afraid to say it. This is gonna be awesome. January 8th. That's when the end begins.
Damn it, dude. I didn't think you could get me more pumped. And now I'm like, I'm gonna go to the comic shop and read it now.
You don't get it. Like I want to send everyone PDFs or little ash cans. I want to show the world so bad. I love this. I love how it's wrapping up. I love it. I'm really into it. I cannot wait to show it to people.
I think Love Letter is like the best way that I can describe Cobra as a book because it is a love letter to comic books, to the medium, to the storytelling, to the art, to the craft of creation, to the ideas that are the foundational building blocks of these characters and these tropes and these concepts. It's been an astounding journey, man. I can't believe 46 issues. Like hearing that out loud, like as a, think about that, guys. I'm gonna print an issue of a comic in my living room and mail it out, all hand numbered on the fucking front, starting from the beginning of a self-published, like, hey, I love Suicide Squad. I'm gonna make my own little comic. I'm just gonna make a little love letter. This is the reason that I wanted to talk to you, man, because like these small little like it's just this tiny little thing, and it's blossomed into this whole beautiful journey that like not only you get to experience, but everybody else gets to experience along with you because you brought us all along for the journey with your sharing of every part of the process and how you approach the stories and the characters. It's been absolutely amazing. And personally, me growing up in the 80s through the black and white boom, I want to thank you for continuing the tradition of creators that really loved everything about this medium from the bottom to the top, to the extent that you don't gatekeep, you do not guard, you are literally at the top of the mountain shouting to everybody like you can do this too. Not this is how you do it, not this is what you can do to make it work. If you want to, you can do it.
Yeah, just come in, all of you, come in, make your own comic or read comics or do whatever. But just it's not about gatekeeping. It's about just inviting everyone because it's such a beautiful fucking art form. You know what I mean? Like it's for everyone. It should be for everyone. Like it's so it really I mean it touched me in a deep way. It could touch other people. I know it. I see it every day. I know it. So I appreciate you saying that. And that reminds me that this wouldn't have been possible, of course, without the readership. I mean, I think I know I've developed a very strong bond between myself and the readers over the years. That's not nothing. This isn't like a casual little cool hip thing. It's like, no, I've been in touch with these people for a long time. I've developed close relationships, deep bonds and friendships. I don't take it for granted. I'm lucky. I'm really lucky that it was ever there and that it's lasted this long. Uh, and you're a part of that. You are a part of that. So I really appreciate you having me on to talk about this stuff because believe me, I know you. We could both go on for a long time. Just talking about Sam Keith. I know that much. I know that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to just fucking grill you. And after you're done with Death of Cobra, I probably will reach out and bother you.
I'll come back on.
Come back on when you
I'll
got
come
it.
back on. We'll just talk about Sam Keith's arm hair. That's it.
Dude, I could just like
A solid hour on that.
God damn it. How does he do that? You crazy bad. Like, and I've studied not gonna
I,
go there.
oh,
We're
I
gonna
know.
stay focused on Cobra and Michelle, and we're gonna keep them in this hour and 15-minute
That was a
gateway.
teaser. That's
I
just a teaser. I'm putting it out in the universe. We'll be back to this. We'll cover lots of ground. There's so much more to talk about.
I was gonna say, man, and I definitely will be talking about Death of Cobra when it comes out. I'll be, showing you guys that as it comes out. And you can check out Michelle's Patreon page, keep up on everything that he does there. A super cool thing about his Patreon page, once a year, if you sign up for it, you have to keep an eye out, but that's how you get commissions from Michel, because I wondered about this for a while too. He does have a commission tier on there, so get onto his Patreon page, check it out. If nothing else, I promise you there's just some awesome like info about publishing and the stories that you've read. Like it's a great thing. His Etsy page, that will be all the links will be in the description below, but his Etsy page will have the Creating Copra book, which you can get directly from him, so all money goes to Michel. If you want to pick up Copra, you can get some of the cool, subscription stuff from him. You can also easily go out to your LCS. Don't get on Amazon, guys. Don't be assholes like that. Go to your fucking LCS. Get them to order the trade paperbacks. Better yet, the hardcovers, because they are worth it. You're going to reread these things, I guarantee it, especially after The Death of Copra comes out and you're like, wait a minute, I have to go back 42 issues and refresh myself on why this is such a gut wrencher. Because coming from Bloodstrike Brutalist, I can tell you that's going to be the case. He's just going to come at the. I cannot wait to see this, man. So before I ramble on too much more, man, seriously, thank you for being on the channel. Thank you for your contributions. Like, as a guy who learned to read from comics, thank you for your contributions and your passion for the medium. They mean a lot to me, dude. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you out, just say the word, brother. Is there anything that I might have missed or that you want to just bring up or talk about with viewers or anything before we get off of here, man?
No, you covered it all, man. That was impressive. That was awesome. And the Patreon thing, yeah, like you said, I try to cover everything there. Like there's a little search engine, a little search bar. Type in whatever name of whatever creator. I probably talked about them at length. Check it out. I do have a free section. Like there's a bunch of free posts. There's just to give you like a sampler of the kind of stuff I talk about. I mean, I go deep on some stuff, just random stuff. I discover an artist, I get obsessed. I have to write about it and I have to share it. And that's what I do. Not really on social media, although I do that on social media too, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, X or Blue Sky as it were. But Patreon is really the hub of my geekiness. I really go deep on certain things. So
Not to mention, it's a cheap and easy way to, support you monthly, even if you're not buying comics, which I think is very important for creators like yourself.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I appreciate you not only mentioning that, but just talking about all this stuff. This is, me, it's a blast. I love talking about this stuff. So thank you. I deeply appreciate it.
I did. I hate comics, so I wouldn't know. I definitely don't blather
Oh,
about
this
them
must be a
all the
drag,
time.
huh?
It's terrible. You're killing me here, Michelle. Just killing me, man. But seriously, dude, thank you so much for being on the channel. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. But seriously, whenever you do get free after this last run of Cobra, I would love to have you back on and just talk artists and get, drag out Creating Cobra and talk about a little bit of this stuff. Give people a little taste, man. I do think I'm going to say it one more time. I've said it like 5 times in an hour, so you guys know I'm passionate about it. It is one of two books that I think if you're self-publishing that you really, 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 really need to read and own. It's also a great way to support Michelle. So check out Creating Copra. If you want, like I said, it's all from his Patreon. So if you want a free taste, get on there. You can sample stuff. I guarantee you it'll be enough to sell you. Thank you again for being on. Thank you guys for joining me. Make sure that if you're not already reading Copra, go back, grab a couple of the compendiums. They're super cheap at this point, and I guarantee you you're going to get hooked. This is a great time to jump on right before the end. This is going to be the send off. We're hitting like 50 issues. 50 issues, guys. I mean, this is a big thing to me. I've been waiting several years. Awesome interview. I can't thank you again enough for your time. And thank you guys for joining me.
You're the
So,
best. Thank you.
dude, I'm gonna let you go. And guys, as always, I really, truly, honestly ask only two things. All right. Keep hitting those local shops and keep supporting Michel Fiffe. Have a good night.
See you guys.
If you did enjoy what you saw, make sure you hit that like button. Think about getting in the comment section below and letting me know if you really enjoyed what you saw. Make sure you Hulk smash that subscribe button. If you do that, make sure you ding the little notification bell so you never miss another video or premiere. Again, if you feel like you're in a position to help the channel grow, think about using the link in the description below to sign up for my Patreon page. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to tons of behind the scenes posts, updates, exclusive content like uncut interviews, and you can even get your name in the credits. If you want to support the channel, if Patreon is not your thing, have no fear. You can finally sign up for membership right here on YouTube. Just hit the little join button and make sure to select the tier and the perks that fit you best. If that's not enough, you can also make one-time donations towards specific goals or just tip the channel using the Ko-Fi link in the description below. And you can even pick up your very own JerkComic shirts like the ones you see on the screen now. As always, this video was brought to you by the Jerk Broadcasting Service, as well as generous grants from the Patreon, Ko-Fi, and YouTube members you see on the screen now. I seriously want to thank every single one of you that supports the channel and helps make these videos possible, with a super special thanks to my loyal Wednesday Warriors, Channel 10, Chasen, Clinton Salvini, and Mike Dolan. I really hope the quality and content is getting better, and I can't wait to see where this next year takes us with your continued support. Thank you again for helping this crazy dream of mine become a reality, and for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even learned something, and as always, I really, truly, and honestly ask only two things. Keep it in those local shops, and keep reading comics.